Hello, my name is Alora Rose. Let me tell you about myself. I am 19 years old. I'm a student of musical theater. I love to perform. I love to sing and dance and act. I love to create things and do crafts. I grew up in the southwestern United States. I'm a Christian. Yeah. Oh, and one more thing. I have panic disorder, anxiety disorder, and depressive disorder. And this is my story. So I grew up with anxiety, depression, and panic disorders. I have a relative who's a psychologist, and he first saw signs of depression in me or a tendency toward depression, let's say that, when I was a preschooler. So I grew up with these disorders, but I was in the gray zone. And what I mean by the gray zone is that my depression and anxiety and panic were strong enough that I felt them and was affected by them, but they weren't strong enough that I knew what was going on or that anyone else could tell what was going on in me. So I grew up with these problems, but I didn't know that I had them. I assumed that everyone else felt the same way. So I learned lots of ways to deal with my problems. They weren't the best or healthiest ways to deal with my problems, but like I said, I didn't realize I had the problems in the first place. For example, sometimes when I was in groups of people, I would get all panicky and I'd feel this anxiety like I needed to hyperventilate. But instead of hyperventilating, I would just talk really fast. It controlled the panic, but it made me kind of annoying to be around. So that's one way my anxiety affected me. One way my depression affected me was at special events like holidays and parties. I would look out at my family and friends, and then suddenly I'd get this horrible sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I'd see all these people I love, but I'd feel awful for no reason. So that's one way that my depression affected me. So I grew up with these disorders sort of manipulating me without me realizing it. When I was about 9, I had my first images. Imagine that someone made a horror movie starring you where you died over and over and over again, and then they forced you to watch it. That movie plays in my head sometimes, and it started when I was about 9, for a few seconds at a time, days or even months apart. When I was 12, I had my first breakdown. I had been having a lot of migraines, so my doctor put me on a medicine for that. And the medicine just triggered something in me. I just completely crashed. I shook all over with anxiety. I was a total mess. Once I got off the medicine, I was much better, but that was the first time my problems really came out and showed themselves so everyone could see them. Well, not everyone, but my parents and people like that. That was also the first time I was put on medicine for my mental health. I was put on medicine for my depression. And I've tried many times to get off that medicine, but it never works. I've been on some sort of medicine for my depression since I was 12. So things got worse as I got older. I started having more panic attacks. So I went to counseling. And throughout high school, things went up and down. I learned to control my anxiety enough that I wasn't as annoying to be around anymore, but I wasn't getting rid of it. I was just stuffing it down deep down inside. And sooner or later, it was going to explode. Everything fell apart when I went to college. I'd been homeschooled all my life, so I'd never been in a situation with such high pressure and constant schedules and strict deadlines before. It was crazy. All of the problems that I had that had been in the gray zone or just under control suddenly weren't under control anymore. It started with pressure building, so I felt an extreme need to be perfect. Then I started losing sleep because I was spending so much time doing school. And then I started losing more sleep because I was so worried about school. I tried to talk to God, but he seemed to be silent. And on top of everything, I had stopped counseling when I came to school. At that point, I was pretty unhappy all the time. But then the images started up again. This time, they weren't days or months apart. They were every day, over and over in my head, and I couldn't stop them, and they were getting stronger. Then I was scared. So at this point, I called up my parents and I told them what was going on, and they were pretty concerned. So we went to the doctor and we got stronger medicine, but it didn't work. Everything was getting worse. I could barely function and I was miserable. So I called my mom up again and asked her to pick me up from school a day early for Christmas break because I could not bear to be there for another 24 hours. When I went back to school, I wasn't ready, but I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. So what did I do? I found a counselor. I started a new kind of therapy. But I still tossed and turned all night, and that was after taking an hour more to get to sleep. And even when I did sleep, I had constant nightmares. or often had nightmares. I didn't always have nightmares, but I very often did. I had constant images, especially during class. I got lots of panic attacks. I felt incapable of being happy. My anxiety and depression were running wild in my head. I dropped out of a theater production I was in, hoping that that would help. But it wasn't enough. Every day it got worse. I was holding in panic attacks literally all day long. You know that feeling, fight or flight, when you miss a step on the stairs and your heart goes, ah! Well, my heart did that and it wouldn't shut off. For weeks. I'm not kidding, it really did that. I couldn't think clearly. I questioned my identity. I couldn't do my homework anymore. Everything seemed hopeless. I finally lost my appetite, and then my hands started shaking for hours at a time. My doctor said she couldn't do anything more for me, and I needed to see a specialist, a psychiatrist, but it was more than almost a 2-month wait to get an appointment. So I decided to do something desperate. On February 16th, 2018, I checked myself into a psychiatric hospital. At the hospital, I got concentrated medical care. I saw psychiatrists once or twice a day, and they thought my medicines were all wrong and even making things worse. So they changed things a few times and watched me to see how my body would react and to see if things would get better. I spent a week in the psychiatric hospital. While I was there, I made some awesome friends, and they gave me the courage to make a decision. I was not going to hide where I'd been or pretend like it had never happened. So I got out of the hospital, ate some pancakes, and went back to school. I did not tell everyone where I'd been, but I told some, and I started on the road to recovery. After I got out of the hospital, I had to deal with my past. I realized that many of the issues I'd been dealing with had affected me for my whole life. And many of the coping skills I developed to deal with them, I thought were characteristics that were a part of me. I thought these were my personality. I thought these were my character traits, but really they were just coping skills to deal with anxiety and depression and panic disorder. I had very few friends growing up, and I realized that maybe things would have been different if I had not been dealing with so much. I felt like I had missed out on what my childhood could have been. Strange as it sounds, I actually had to go through the process of grief for myself. The person I thought I was never really existed. She was a product of mental health problems and confusion. I had to go through grief as if I had died so that I could let go of the person that I had been. The rest of the semester was hard. I had catch-up work to do, plus my regular work, and I still wasn't all better. The fact that I'd gotten out of the hospital didn't mean I was healthy. It meant that I was better than when I got in there. So I almost dropped out so many times. But every time, God would give me something to hold on to that would make me want to stay just a few more days. I once stayed over the weekend so I could audition for a movie that Monday. Didn't get in, but still. But what really stood out throughout all the craziness of the rest of the semester was how many people I found out dealt with the same things I did. I won't share any details here for their sakes, but let me just say, I learned that mental health problems are literally everywhere, and that people who deal with them are never, ever alone. I miraculously finished the semester with good grades and came home. Since I came back from college, a lot has happened. I've rested, I've spent time with my family, I've changed medications, and I've gotten a bit better. It's a slow, agonizing process, however. Some days I wonder if I'm getting much better at all. But then I get in the car and I sing at the top of my lungs with my sister, and I realize I'm a far cry from that scared girl in that hospital. I can laugh. Some days I have the energy to cry. It may sound easy to cry, but when depression gets really bad, sometimes you just don't have the energy to cry. So the fact that I can cry now is a big accomplishment. I recently started dancing again, and I didn't dance for a while. I'm still struggling, but I'm getting better. My images are going away, but very slowly. My relationship with God is in an interesting place. I won't deny that I'm mad at Him. I'm hurt that He let all this happen to me. But I don't understand, and I'm low on hope. But I'm choosing to follow Him anyway. I still go to church. I try to pray. I get advice from godly people. My faith is burning low, but it's burning steady. I guess you could say that I'm still trying to follow God, but I have trouble looking Him in the eyes. So now I'm out of college for a while, trying to get better, and I've realized that my story and my experience could help a whole lot of people. So that's what this channel is about, mental health. Everything I've learned and experienced, plus everything my psychologist relative can teach me. because what happened to me happened for a reason, and I'm not going to let that go to waste. So click the subscribe button to keep up to date on everything I create, from coping skill videos to funny skits to all sorts of fun stuff. It's gonna be fun. Well, that's all. That's my story. So I hope to see you soon on my channel. I'm looking forward to making a lot more videos for you guys. Love and bye.